We are talking today with Dr. Lakeisha Johnson. She is a professor and she's a researcher. Hello, certified speech language pathologist, and she's going to be talking to us about the importance of literacy and how we can help our children in their language skills, their literacy skills, and also especially how important diverse books are to that. Why does it make it such a difference for kids to have access to diverse books? How does that help them boost their language skills? Hello, is that better?
I still hear you, but I don't see you, but it's all good.
Okay.
Nope, but it's okay. We can chat this way. I hear you perfectly fine.
Well, people watching, let us know if you are having any trouble with seeing both of us, and if so, we'll figure something out. But otherwise, I guess
Yeah,
we'll forge ahead. But I'm so glad you could join us today. Thank you for coming by.
definitely. Thank you for inviting me and having me. I see a few people are watching. Hey, story time with Jax. Thanks for joining us.
And so, why don't we jump on in and you can introduce yourself and introduce
Sure.
my book nook.
Awesome. So, my name is Lakeisha Johnson. I am a professor at Florida State University in the School of Communication Science and Disorders. So, I am a speech language pathologist, and I don't practice or do therapy anymore. Right now, I just teach students who are going to become therapists and researchers in the field. I used to work as a school based SLP in an elementary school for a while. I currently do research related to language and literacy development, specifically in African American children, children who are from vulnerable or marginalized populations, so children with disabilities, children growing up in poverty, all about how we can best help them meet academic goals. I love all things related to children's books. I've always loved to read myself. And it's been Maya's Book Nook has been a way for me to merge all of my passions, the things that I love around language and literacy. And the website was started probably about 5 or 6 years ago, um, based on my oldest daughter, Maya, who's now 8, because we wanted to continue to share diverse children's books. I would share them on my personal social media pages, and people always said, "You need a website. You really need to like start sharing this stuff a bit more, and have it all in one centralized place." So we like to highlight authors of color and authors who are writing books about children of color and diversity across the spectrum. So not just race and ethnicity, but also disability type, um, ability levels, gender roles, all kinds of things. So anything related to diversity, those are the books we love to share.
I love it. I love it. And so why, I mean, you said that you always loved reading, but why is literacy such a passion of yours? And why is it so, why do we, is that something we all should be paying attention to and trying to nurture in our children?
Definitely. I mean, literacy is a huge passion. One, because it was something that was instilled in me when I was a child. So I really believe that the way that my mom, my grandma, the way that they showed value for literacy really had an impact on me. But literacy is truly and what where we are right now in terms of our current social political climate. Literacy is a social justice issue because there are so many kids who are not reading at grade level proficiency, or kids who are starting school with some barriers that may impact how they learn how to read. So it is one of those areas that I'm always wanting to foster more information about, so people know all of the skills and things they can do to make book reading not only fun but engaging, because it can really help with it can really open the doors for lots of things. When we think about all that kids will do in schools, where that leads to later life quality when it comes to work and careers, everything always comes back to literacy at one point. So it's really important that we do as much as we can to help kids before they become struggling readers.
Right. And as we mentioned, you're a professor, you're a researcher, you've worked as a certified speech language pathologist, and you talked
Mhm.
a little bit about how you started your blog. As you've done it, you said for 5 or 6 years, how has it helped you kind of reach a larger audience or maybe a different audience? What have you found that
Yeah.
made the blog different than, say, how you reach people through your other work?
Oh yeah, the blog is much different because a lot of times as researchers, a lot of the work that we do, sometimes it stays in universities within students, and a large part of the work I do is trying to make sure it's moved into practice. So what educators and other SLPs are doing, but even more important, the website has really helped the information get to families,
Mm.
community partners, other organizations. I partner and do a lot of work with our local library system here, our local PBS station. The website is very tangible, right? It's one thing that you can send a quick blog post or social media post, and you can deliver the information in a way that's sometimes a lot more easily digestible, where you're just giving kind of the facts, but you can do it in a fun way that families, especially families and other educators, people who are working with kids, can appreciate and then actually put it into practice the same day or the next day.
Is that fun for you? Especially, I'm thinking about you as this very academic researcher, but and then you have to. Was it hard to kind of switch and say, okay, now how can I switch to this different register of how I'm going to present that, or is that kind of like a fun brain break for you to write that as
It
opposed to academic?
is. It is. It is absolutely a fun brain break. I'm the type of researcher, there are lots of different kinds of researchers. I am that kind where, yes, I do have to do the academic writing, but I absolutely love things that are practical. Anytime I do a workshop, a session, I always want people to leave thinking I can do this thing tomorrow, right, with my classroom or my kids at home. And so the blog is really an outlet. It's a nice way to write in a tone that can really really open it up to, like you said, different audiences, people who would never or people who wouldn't necessarily think they'd be interested in best reading, shared book reading practices, but they see it broken down in a way that it becomes a little more tangible, and they know it's something they can do at home.
Right, and I should say, I mean, your website is set up just like that. People should go check it out because there are, you can go see book recommendations, you can see literacy tips, and it's all like these bullets, like really easy to read, easy to incorporate into your daily life. And well, I'll jump ahead one because one of the things I wanted to talk about is your Beyond the Book guides. Can you tell us a
Oh,
little bit
yes. Yeah, so like you just said, and thank you for saying that it's easy to use, because I mean that's the hope, is that I want everything to be a user-friendly experience. The Beyond the Book guide started when reading, I always think like, all right, I read this really good book, and sometimes, we read a book with a child, and all you do is read the actual text on the page. But research has shown us that the conversations we have around the book are way more important than actually what's happening in the story itself, right? So it's all of this extra stuff we do. The book is like the actual text is like the icing on the cake,
about?
right? So you get this good story, but you also get this really, really rich language and conversation and interactions that are happening between either parents or caregivers, early child care providers, people who are reading books, especially when we're talking about really little kids. So the Beyond the Book guides, I started as a way to, as a free way, because I also know what happens with educators is you don't have time to sometimes to prep a lot of materials. You spend so much time doing all of the other things. I wanted to come up with a solution that would be a free and easily accessible way to provide a resource to educators, especially as they were looking for ways to diversify the books they were using in their classrooms, and for families who were thinking about them from books they wanted to add to their libraries at home or books that they checked out from the public library. So the Beyond the Book guides really serve as a way that I've taken what we know as best practices for when you read a book with a child, but made it in a way that's really user friendly. So of course, it includes a summary of the book. They're always written at a level that's appropriate for both parents who may not have high literacy levels themselves, but it's written for parents, educators, anybody who's reading a book with a kid. But it includes a summary of the book. And then it also gives you things to do before reading, during reading, and after reading. Like I said, the conversation around the book is extremely important. I mean, I have an 8-month-old at home, for example. She is clearly not reading any books, right? But she really enjoys the physical aspect of a book. And at that age, one of the things they love to do is actually put the book in their mouth, right? Or they're flipping through the pages really quickly. She doesn't care about the words on the page. She cares about the interactions that we're having together. So, what I like to do is provide families with tips for things to do before reading the book to really get the child, if they're a child who is, using words and a little bit older, having them think about, kind of activating their background knowledge before you even read the book. And then during the book, how do you keep them engaged by asking questions and having conversations around some of the things that are happening in the story? And even most importantly, making connections to their own life. So if we're reading a book, like I'm prepping for an event next week where we actually have children from all across the state of Florida come for Children's Week to the Capitol, and community partners bring books to life. So we're doing Why Not You by Sierra and Russell Wilson. And when we think about making connections to books, the book is all about you can do anything you want to do, working hard, meeting your goals, overcoming obstacles, right? And you're dreaming your biggest dreams. So one of the questions around, during the book is, what are some of your big dreams, right? How do you start to activate it? How do you connect it? There's a kid in the book who is scared to climb up the monkey bars. We can talk about a time where your child is scared to do something or when they had to overcome a fear, right? So you really want to think about and have both parents and caregivers, teachers activate that knowledge kind of before, during, and after reading. The guides also include vocabulary because we know books are an amazing way to increase vocabulary knowledge for new words. And those are words, a lot of times we can pull out words from children's books that aren't words that kids may hear on a regular basis or they may not use themselves, right? So we include child-friendly definitions for all those words so that you can start to add new words to their vocabulary because it just helps. It makes the connection for stronger language skills, which leads to later literacy when the kids are reading themselves, which leads to writing and spelling. So it's a huge cycle and or a spiral. And the more we read, the more you get a lot of these extra benefits from just being exposed to a lot of books.
And speaking of exposure to books, as you point out, it's really important to make sure those books are diverse and
Yes.
whether you're about race or ability and so on. Why is that so important? And what is that? I mean, I think we've talked a lot on this channel about why it's so important for building empathy, for, building
Mm-hmm.
self-confidence. What's the connection with literacy?
Yeah. Well, books are just important because, and well, one, we know that research has shown us that kids are more engaged and motivated to read books when they have characters that look like them, when they can relate to the characters in the book, when it's authentic stories. So that's definitely one of the things that's really important. So just the simple fact that you being able to connect to the character that you see in the book will make you read more. That is impactful, right? So we want to make sure that we're providing. Rudine Sims Bishops has this quote that I love and I use all the time about books being mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. I know you all know it at Makeaway Media. It's really important. We want to not just, I always tell families and educators, you want to have books that look like the kids that are in front of you in your spaces, right? And you start with having them reflect the kids that are there, and then you expand, right? You expand so that they're able to have empathy, like you said, to learn how other people do life. Because so often, we do life with people who are just like us. And books are an amazing way to be able to branch out, to learn more, to be more of a world citizen, to be more of an empathetic person. Honestly, to just be a good human, right? Books can really help do all those things.
When you've got a nice comment here saying you are absolutely right. So, yes,
Oh,
I love
thank you for
that.
joining us.
Yeah, and I love that perspective too about how, like you said, I mean that what a great motivation for kids to read if they're actually they're more engaged in the stories, and even when you start to expand out and have ones that are maybe about different cultures, like you
Mhm.
say, that authentic story, I think that that resonates with kids even if it's about a different culture, different experience. When there's that, like we talk about
Absolutely.
this books and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something to be said about the motivation side of it. There's a lot that goes into how kids learn how to read. What are the best practices? We know that kids have to learn the sounds, they have to learn phonics and how to decode. All of those things are extremely important. But alongside, as you're teaching this very structured way, you're teaching phonics in this very structured and explicit way. You want to also continue to provide really authentic, rich text. And it really just helps to support all of those other language skills that will then be more impactful as they get older and learn more in terms of later literacy and reading and writing and spelling. It is all connected.
Right. Right, and you have read so many and shared so many great children's books over the years. Do you have, I know it's hard to pick one, but do you have one or two favorites that you always rely on if you're reading to maybe a group for the first time? Is
I
that too
knew
hard?
you were
Is
going to
that too
ask
hard?
that question, and it is always the absolute hardest question to answer because we do read so many books. Um, One of my favorites is right back there on the shelf, I Am Enough by Grace Byers. I absolutely love that book because one, the affirmations that are in it, are just perfect. I love books that make you feel something, right? So our favorites change right now. Maya is really loving. She's 8 now, so she's reading books independently on her own. But she does her own thing very often because she's reading, middle grade and um, are in chapter books. So her favorite series right now, she really loves the Magnificent Makers. She loves a lot of the Miles Lewis and Jada Jones books. She's reading some of the Just Right Jillian has been one that she's so we really really like a lot of books. It's hard for me to choose just one, but we love any book that provides um, affirmations or books that help us learn about change makers, people who are doing amazing things that we haven't learned about. So I think that part is also really cool. So even though she's older, we still read a lot of picture books because I enjoy learning from them too.
I love that, and I love that and I know in your Instagram, I've started to see her more. I know she did a reel recently, and that's kind of fun. I have an 8-year-old daughter, so it's really fun to see like what she's reading, so I can get and I think it's fun there. Let's see, I love Maya's summaries of books and how she shows her love of reading. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it's so cool because she's gone from people who followed for a while. They've really gotten to see Maya grow up, and now they see Zora. And most people get the connection. Maya was, when we chose Maya's name, we have of course Maya Angelou, and then Maya named our youngest daughter Zora because she said we needed another strong Black author name for a little girl. So we have a Maya Angelou, a Zora Neale Hurston. So, we're raising little readers, but it's been really amazing because seeing how she kind of shifts. So she's really liking graphic novels right now. And we dig into, and she reads everything, right? She reads lots of books. She like any average, third grader. She likes the Dork Diaries and Diary of a Wimpy Kid. But we also try to foster a love for just finding books that are diverse because really want her to be able to, she knows so much about other cultures and people and holidays and stuff that I ever did at that age. And it's simply because of books. So,
Well, and so what's next for Maya's Book Nook? Do you have any things
yeah.
for developing?
Now that she's getting older, Maya is starting to do she's starting to come up with a lot of things. So the reels, like you mentioned, she does her Move Mondays when she's not too busy with school and gymnastics. So Move Mondays will continue. Those are her book picks. So it's what she's currently reading and loving. We are also hoping to do a few more author interviews. The Beyond the Book guides will continue. Those are something that we're constantly always adding to the website. Um, and one thing that Maya is begging for is to start a book club. So we'll see if it happens, but she's really begging for that. Locally here in Tallahassee, where we are doing book nook bundles that feature a lot of the diverse books that we show on the website, and we've partnered with our local library system where families can actually check out books just like the ones that we feature on our website, and it's a box. It includes the actual book, the Beyond the Book guide, like you mentioned, as well as some extension activities for families to do after they read the book.
That is amazing. What a great service to have to the
Yeah,
local community. Love that.
yeah, it's really really cool, and I mean they get to check them out for absolutely for free, just like you would any other library book. They can look them up in the card catalog. So right now we have 25 titles of these Book Nook bundles available at 7 different library branches in our local area. Oh, and I see
Oh,
some
you have
people
them.
who are relatively close by. So cool. If you're in the Tallahassee area, you can pop by our libraries and you can check them out. And everything that's in the boxes is also on the website. So even if you don't live here, you can't get the boxes, you can definitely still use the materials at home.
Right. You can just find the libraries, find the books
Hmm.
at your library.
Yep.
Print them
Find the
off.
books at your library. A big part of the work that I do is creating things that are equitable and having allowing everybody to have access to it. So I don't want to hold on to the stuff. I want people to be able to access it. And one of the best ways was to work with our local library system. So families can check those out, and people who aren't local can follow along on the website to be able to still have benefit from the materials.
I love that, which goes back to how you started the whole interview talking about literacy as a social justice issue. So that's what a great way to finish it off. And thank you for joining us here today. And anybody who wants to check out those resources, just go to the link in her bio. When we post this on YouTube, we'll be sure to include the direct link to the website and all of those resources. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Of course. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's been a pleasure.
Absolutely. And thanks to everybody who's watching. This will be, if you joined us late, this will be up in just a few minutes on our Instagram page and later on YouTube. Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Take care.